The Celestial Quran, chapter 9, verse 30, is a staple in the long-lasting rivalry between Islam and Christianity. In it states, "The Jews say that Ezra is the son of God." This verse has been weaponized by Orthodox Christian and Muslim missionaries alike in their long-lasting debate with each other. You see, the Christians utilize this verse to prove that the Quran is historically inaccurate by saying that there was no Jewish sects that believed that Ezra was the son of God. The Muslims, on the other hand, use this to say that the Quran is historically accurate because the reverence that Jews had for Ezra when he reintroduced the Torah to them is as if they were treating him like he was the son of God. So the Muslims' idea behind this is that they weren't saying that he was the son of God, but they were treating him like he was the son of God. However, there is a sect of Christianity and Islam that is deemed heretical by majority of the Orthodox scholars, and these are the group I come from, the Gnostics. In this video, we will be talking about how us Gnostic and Hermetic Muslims alike view this passage in the Quran and what it is talking about. Spoiler alert, it has to do with the word Uzair having nothing to do with Ezra. The word Uzair in this verse is not referring to Ezra. The purpose of this video is to completely stomp out and decimate the conversation and the argument that has arisen from this passage. And besides, Christians who practice Gnosticism and Muslims who practice Gnosticism, they don't care about each other. They don't interfere with each other's faiths. They don't think that either side is in need of saving. Gnostic Muslims and Christians alike love each other, unlike the Orthodox Muslims and Christians. So, without further ado, let us get into this breakdown. So, what do I think Uzair is in reference to in this verse? Well, you're probably thinking, oh, you're going to be like all the other people who say that Uzair is in reference to Osiris. But actually, it's not. In this verse, actually what they're talking about is the Jews worshipping the Saturnian frequency, the Saturnian energy, the elements of Saturn. I will prove this to you guys using numbers, theory, and pointing out where the Jews do Saturn worship in modern day times. As a brief disclaimer, this video is for the practitioners of Gnosticism, numerology, mysticism, and magic alike, and esoterica and the occult. If you are not into these things, and if you are not fancying of these things, and you are an Orthodox person looking to defend your beliefs, do not come here. This is not for you. Without further ado, let's get started. So, why is it that I believe that the veneration of Uzair as the son of God is Saturn worship? The reason why I believe it is Saturn worship lies within the numerology of the verses. In the book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 26, it talks about how the reasons that Israel has transgressed and is being put into exile by God is because of their making of tabernacles to Moloch and the worshipping of Saturn. In this breakdown, I'm going to be talking about how this is not just talking about the previous Jews, but the Jews that the Quran talks about too. I'm going to be using this with the numbers of the verse, 526 in Amos and 930 in the Quran. I'm also going to be using the gematria of Kion, which is the word for Saturn in the Bible, and the word Uzair, which is in reference to what I think is Saturn and not Ezra. Okay, let's get into the calculations concerning 930 and 526. 9, as in Quran chapter 9, multiplied by 5, as in Amos chapter 5, equals 45. The gematria value of Zahal, which is the Arabic word for Saturn. Then 930, as in Quran 930, divided by 5, as in Amos chapter 5, equals 86, which is the gematria value of Chion, which is the Hebrew word for Saturn. Now let's move on to the verse numbers, 30 and 26. If you multiply the two, you get 780. 930, as in Quran 930, subtracted by 780 equals 150, which is the gematria value of the name Isa. The The reason why this is relevant is because right after in Quran 9:30, where they talk about how the Jews believe Uzair is the son of God, they talk about how the Christians believe Isa is the son of God. Furthermore, 780 subtracted by 526, as in Amos 526, equals 254. 150 subtracted by 254 equals 104, whilst 930 subtracted by 526 equals 404. Furthermore, if you reduce 254 dividing by 2, you get the number 127. 27 is the product of 9 and 3. Now let's do an equation. 780 divided by 5, as in Amos chapter 5, is the same mathematical expression if you were to multiply the sums of 930 and 526. Furthermore, 5 times 2 times 6 subtracted by 9 times 3 equals 33. There's that Jesus symbolism again, as you know that 33 is the age of ascension of Jesus Christ. 5 times 26 plus 9 times 30 equals 400. And this is the Hebrew equivalent of Saturn. 400 in Hebrew gematria is the letter Tav, and Tav in Hebrew mysticism permeates the planet Saturn. Now let's get ready for the grand finale of this numerical breakdown. 5 times 2 times 6 plus 9 times 3 equals 87. Now, 87 is obviously 78 reverse and 780, but it is also in reference to the gematria value of Uzair, which is 287. Okay, now that we've used the numbers of the scriptures to show how the verse is talking about Saturn, let's now use the letters of the scriptures and theory about how it's talking about Saturn. So you're probably wondering, how in modern day times do Jews, mystical or Orthodox alike, worship Saturn? Well, it's very simple. Saturn in the astrological archetype is associated with many things: hard work, agriculture, karma, time, intelligence. Saturn is also associated with the day of Saturday, which is the Jewish Sabbath. Most importantly, though, in mystical thought and in mystical angelology in Abrahamic religions, Saturn is associated with the angel of death. This is due to Saturn's association with time. If you've ever read the New Testament, what I'm about to tell you should not come to any surprise. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, the two religious authorities for the Jews at that time of Jesus Christ, why did they hate Jesus Christ with a passion? What did they believe was their Yeshua? Yeshua is the Hebrew word for salvation. What did they believe was their Yeshua, their Son of God, their bridge that leads them to God? The Jews believed at that time that their salvation relied on their works. They relied on their agriculture, relied on their order, relied on their intelligence. These are all archetypes for Saturn. Most importantly, Saturn is also a fatherly archetype. So the Jews also believed that their ancestral connection to the father Abraham was their salvation. Most importantly, the Jews were obsessed with the Sabbath. Extremely obsessed with the Sabbath, to the point in where they took it so seriously and they were so serious about the literalism of Allah that they almost killed Jesus for healing someone on the Sabbath. Moving on to the mystical Jews. The mystical Jews have a spell that has been passed down from generation to generation. It's called the Pulsa di Natura. The Pulsa di Natura is a death spell. It is a spell that invokes the angel of death and kills people. The mystical Jews over-rely and worship Saturn in the aspect of them using the Pulsa di Natura to kill their enemies and fight their oppressors. And there you have it, folks. The breakdown on what it means for the Jews to say that Uzair is the son of God. I have a lot of confidence, certainty, and power in what I say. And I believe that this breakdown and this information will end the discussion and controversy that surrounds this verse and chapter. If you would like to see more videos breaking down scripture, and if you'd like to see the reconstruction of Islamic Hermeticism and Islamic Gnosticism, be sure to subscribe.